Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me and everyone there and here in Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra. We are here to do the meditation and followed by a talk. So please, I'm sure you have secured your space and have a good posture to sit still in meditation. This is important part of Buddhist practices is learning to sit still and let your mind not wander off, but have a really good discipline to sit still with great faith that it is in the good meditation that many clarification and reconstitution happens, including enlightenment. Maybe enlightenment itself is a little bit not quite near, but I'm sure there are lots of clarification and settling of your minds and thoughts that will clear. So for this reason, we need to do the meditation. Okay, so we will first do the refuge, which is renewing our faith, devotion, and belief in the teachings, and rejoicing it, and honoring it, and therefore resolute to practice in all situations of life, not just as a formality before meditation or prayers, but always remember the refuge, meaning practice of safety in our thoughts, in our words and deeds, particularly when we remember how blessed, how enlightening the teachings of the Buddha is, and how true the Dharma is, how wonderful it is to have Sangha, and therefore we feel very, very much supported on the path leading to enlightenment. So rejoicing the qualities of the Triple Gem, and then we remember to practice loving kindness and compassion, joy and equanimity. So with this, we'll do the prayers. Oyenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Adere Vijala Dhamma Pavarcha Ajeva Handala Ashare Buddha Tuve and Apu Tadama Sangha Atere Vijala Dhamma Pavacha Ajevandala Ashare Buddha Tuve and Apu Tadarama Sangha Atere Vijala Dhamma Pavacha Ajevandala Ashare Buddha May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a path from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, of those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a path from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, of those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a path from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion, of those near and far. So now we will do the meditation. So this meditation is really sitting quiet and still. I recommend you to divide your meditation in 3 parts, which I'll use the gong to time, and each of the 3 techniques, a lot of time you should use. So I recommend to watch your posture, do the forward counting of qualified rounds of inhalation, retention, exhalation. And then third one is do reverse counting of super qualified attention to the same technique of breathing, so that you are really one pointedly staying still. And overall you observe this stillness of your posture and sincerity of your motivation, serenity of your attention, and simplicity of your technique. And not letting your mind drift away or go dull, but stay very upright and very alert and calm and serene as the meditation can take place only with these qualities. Welcome once again, everyone. Can you hear okay? Oh, that's good. Well, in meditation, I was supposed to be quiet. Was very noisy, by the way. When you're trying to be quiet, you realize how noisy it is. Okay, so today's topic is a very important loving kindness as a topic of the teaching. It is said that even highest form of discipline and meditation and even with wisdom is to have loving kindness as a crop of the harvest. you can plow the soil, you can sow the seeds, you can water it, you can prune it, but in the end you wanted to see the tree produce the fruit, you know. So even we are sitting still, we do meditation regularly, we study Dharma, and we have lots of understanding of the various concepts and ideas and so on. But the main thing is to have loving kindness. The purpose of all of that is so that we practice loving kindness. And so I'm going to explain today the loving kindness from the point of view of what is the nature of loving kindness. Nature of loving kindness is a very genuine, sincere wish to make others happy and have the power or influence to cause them to have happiness. So that's what usually we say, may beings have happiness and cause of happiness. That's really loving kindness. And when someone tries to understand loving kindness after listening many teachings, the person said to the teacher, "Oh," he said, "a loving kindness to all sentient beings." He says, how can you do that? He says, if you can feel the strong loving kindness towards your only child, and will you be able to do that to all living beings? He says, "Oh, no way, no way." He says, "I cannot. I don't have sufficient loving kindness to spare to all living beings. That loving kindness that I have for my child is the most dearest one." And so the person was very honest, and he understood the meaning, because he said, "It's so difficult. How can you do? How could anybody have loving kindness like you have to your only child, to all sentient beings?" Now, this indicates that that as a loving kindness that we have to only our child, as the best example the mother's love for child is considered to be most ideal form of love that two person can have, even above other forms of love between two person. So loving kindness is the sincere, selfless wish to make the other happy, and do anything, to give anything, try to make the other happy. And you will see that attempt being made by most parents, most loving people towards who they love someone. So that could be, you can see that kind of love being shown between two people quite a lot. But often that is not, nevertheless, from Buddhist point of view, that is just a mother's loving kindness to her child. While it is the best example, it is mainly because it's her child, not because it's because this other sentient being. It's because the child is her child. So actual loving kindness has to be much more higher than that. When we say finite loving kindness to a finite person, such as your only child, and loving kindness to infinite sentient beings. And loving kindness to people who are kind to us, or loving kindness to people who are hard, difficult to us. So the teaching talks about how to develop loving kindness to, say, even to one's mother. Most people's loving kindness to a mother is also very selfishly saying, if she does something we like, then we love her. but otherwise we withdraw showing loving kindness. That's not really love. That's also is very, very tainted by selfishness. So most of the love is very, not only finite loving kindness to a finite person, but also with very finite reasons. If you are happy with her, you show loving kindness to her. There are lots of people who have estranged their love between themselves and mother, and so the Buddhist teaching talks about how to remember who your mother is, and therefore try to regain your memory of how much she gave, how much she did, your body, your life, your education, everything that you have and you are a gift of your mother. So teaching try to encourage you to win your heart, to love her more because how kind she has been, so it's a very, very hard way to sell loving kindness, because the best loving kindness is really, that is the main purpose of loving kindness is not just to make someone happy and have cause happiness. Best purpose of loving kindness is to stop ill will, stop ill will that we have towards others. So that's the main objective of loving kindness, is to stop ill will in our mind, which is the most destructive emotion there is. Now, if we can stop the destructive emotion by a remedy called loving kindness, then we won't have hate, even with someone who hates us. But instead we have loving kindness to them. Why? Because this person is suffering due to me and due to my unscrupulous behavior, or maybe disrespectful conduct, and therefore feeling their plight and see their suffering is interfering. Their suffering is interfering you to practice loving kindness, when actually their suffering should be the cause for you to show more loving kindness to them. And so main purpose of the loving kindness is, they say, how do you know you have loving kindness? That you have no ill will anymore. So, but loving kindness the mother has to her child is not, she's not loving the child because she has ill will to the child, but she is so attached to the child, thinking it's mine. So the mother's loving kindness to child is not really doing the job. She's only doing her mundane motherly duty. It's a natural love of the mother for the child is good in the worldly sense, because she is so selfless, she's so dedicated for the child's well-being. But it's only because it's her child, So I think there's nothing wrong with that. But when you talk about ideal loving kindness, the ideal purpose of loving kindness is to stop ill will. So that is among the many objects of loving kindness to someone who have been kind to us, such as our parent or loved ones, or some friend, or some colleagues, or people in the Sangha, and you really have so many things you love and respect and have common things too, doing things that. But the ideal objects of loving kindness is enemy, is whereby we do not, where we see the waste of our time harboring ill will with ill will, hate with hate, but we have this task of how to overcome the ill will with goodwill and loving kindness. So that's why it is said that even discipline, even meditation, even wisdom is so that we can harvest the fruit of loving kindness. That when you have loving kindness towards somebody who is really difficult with you, but you unconditionally see him being the messenger of your past ill will and aggression to other sentient beings, now ripening into your life, but it's not sort of killing the messenger, but see the person who's suffering as instead of hating one who hates you, or screaming at one who screams at you, but try to show unconditional loving kindness, try to overcome their anguish by your goodwill, and you, instead of brooding ill will, but you are actually being able to say radiate loving kindness. So that would be the ideal loving kindness, because loving kindness is the highest harvest to reap from discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Whatever you do, it is so that you can have loving kindness to the hated enemy. So that is the kind of ideal objects of loving kindness is enemy. And then the other objects of loving kindness, such as towards whom one is attached to, like a man with a woman or husband with a wife, and these things are loving kindness are just totally tainted by desire and attachment. So this kind of loving kindness is considered good in in this society, because you have someone get attached to each other, and because they are mutually beneficial, and people without someone to depend on, someone to share to, often wish they had somebody. And if the two are really compatibly able to be patient and tolerant and generous to each other, they definitely become mutually beneficial objects of love, so to speak. But still, it's not really pure love, because it is attachment. But what one wants the other to be for oneself, as vice versa. So mutually beneficial objects of friendship or love are, of course, it exists in our world. And if you see this happening between two brothers, or husband and wife, or husband and sisters, or neighbors, or friends, it's considered to be good, because there's harmony between the two. But it's still not considered real loving kindness. It's just form of mutual friendship, or that friends that by having each other both have mutual benefit. So because of that, there's nothing wrong with that. Rather than having people who you have a lot of differences, it's good to have few people who you have share, who love, who give and take, do things for each other, almost like yourself. So, but here we are talking about loving kindness that overcomes ill will and hatred. And also, we are talking about loving kindness that transforms attachment into true loving kindness, desire into true loving kindness. That's why it is very highest goal of Buddhist meditation, or self-discipline, or even wisdom, is so that we practice this unconditional loving kindness. Metta bhavana. Sanskrit, Pali deko, metta bhavana. Metta means friendship. Really making someone as your friend, that his well-being and happiness is yours. And you're not doing this out of attachment to this person per se, but you are actually able to generate loving kindness and show that through acts and words and deeds. And when you have loving kindness, how do you know that you have loving kindness? You yourself is very, very happy. You don't have any discontentment. You have so that the fact that you have loving kindness towards others, whether someone hates you or criticizes you, doesn't matter. Whether someone attached to you or not, whether someone doesn't care for you or not, whether someone loves you or not, but you actually really have unconditional loving kindness to all people and sentient beings. That person is very, very, almost like he has realized infinite loving kindness. The one who has realized infinite loving kindness is very well. He doesn't get sick, so to speak. Of course, we will get sick, but you won't get sick in the head. You don't get sick in the head. Very good. You don't get sick in the heart either. You might get sick in the kidney or the joints or whatever. They're just biological thing. They're just natural. You can't avoid it. But you are not sick with hate. You're not sick with ill will. But you are well with loving kindness. You are well with the loving kindness. And so that's why loving kindness is purpose, the ideal purpose of even calm body meditation. There is a conversation between Maitreya and Manjushri. They say, what's the purpose of calm body meditation? They say, oh, the purpose of calm body meditation is not to do calm body meditation. Purpose of calm body meditation is so that you develop how to practice loving kindness. So, and then say, what's the purpose of discipline? He says, purpose of discipline is not so that you are very disciplined. Purpose of discipline is so that your discipline makes you to develop loving kindness. and so on. It's full of that conversation between those in the sutras. So loving kindness is the highly regarded as the one of the many distinctive qualities of the Buddha, enlightenment. Buddha has infinite loving kindness towards all sentient beings. So even if someone like Angulimala, who has killed so many people, comes, he unconditionally receives him, doesn't reject him, doesn't judge him, but show him the way and change him completely. Why? Buddha has unconditional loving kindness to people like Angulimala, and didn't judge him harshly, didn't reject him, didn't ban him, but unconditionally embrace him. So loving kindness is the result of good meditation. Even you have very strict discipline, even you meditate a lot, even you do a couple of hours of reciting sadhanas, mantras, so on, but you should really see, in the end, I should become more kind person. Particularly with the difficult sentient beings. Particularly people who are really hard on you or hard on anyone near you, that you still radiate with loving kindness and understanding and forgiveness. So loving kindness is that which empowers you to practice forgiveness. Loving kindness is that empowers you to practice compassion and confession. You can actually confess your own flaws to someone, not because you are more wrong than others, but you want them to know that you care for them, and because of that you confess them as if it's entirely your fault. It's very good, very good. So loving kindness, confession, if people are doing confession to seek the approval of others, that's not a good motivation. Confession should be made so that your admission of your share of mistake will actually relieve them from their suffering and causes suffering, and make them happy and find the causes of happiness. So even confession is much easily done by people who have loving kindness. And so therefore loving kindness is such a highest virtue of discipline. Even you are very strict monastic, you don't eat any food after midday, you are strict vegetarian, you do your practice every day meticulously, you never miss your routine prayers or sadhanas or whatever you do. It's very good discipline, but you have to see whether they are translating into having loving kindness or not. You've got to really look at that. It's really, really important. This is no wonder why His Holiness Dalai Lama calls my religion is kindness. So it doesn't really matter how strictly you observe this or that. Of course we try to observe, we do the right thing by the norms of society as best as we can. But in the meantime, we need to be fully armed with loving kindness, particularly those who are misunderstood, particularly those who have severe problems, particularly people who have mental problems, people who have behavior problems, people who have social problems. We have to show loving kindness to them more than other members of society. They say, oh, you have this, we can't have that. Oh, you got this medical, we can't have that. There are some Buddhist group who actually think that you should to check people whether they can come inside your group or not, because they want to check. They want to check, or police check. Buddhism, loving kindness. You have to practice loving kindness is the most important tool. Sentient beings are struggling and in problems. We have to embrace them. Instead of judging them, instead of stigmatizing them, instead of thinking that we can't have anyone like that among us, these are not Buddhism. Definitely not Buddhism. Buddhism teaches unconditional loving kindness, teaching even discipline, meditations, solitude, and noble silence, vegetarianism, and many vows, many mantras you do. So what if you don't, in the end, show loving kindness? So we must not see the loving kindness as some occasional thing. Loving kindness should be so that we are always able to radiate loving kindness. That's why we do our study, we do our recitation, we do our teachings, empowerment, sadhanas, mantras, all of this, that we actually have such ability to radiate loving kindness to all sentient beings, particularly those who have lots of suffering, who don't have happiness, who have more suffering than any happiness they could get. They don't want any suffering, but that's all they get. They want happiness, but they are not able to get it because very few are giving them cause of happiness. So if someone has a very bad behavior or bad problem, we should show loving kindness to the person. Instead of showing judgment, instead of showing kind of anger or irritation or agitation, we should radiate them with loving kindness. So that's why loving kindness is highest kind of, I would say, crop, best kind of, the choicest kind of crop of your practice of Dharma. Even the qualities of Buddha, we bow down to the Buddha images, not because the sculpture is beautiful, because it's expensive. It's because it's radiating unconditional loving kindness. When you read the sutras in the between lines, it's all how to practice loving kindness. How Buddha forgave the Maras. How Buddha did not retaliate the Maras. How he showed his loving kindness and then won everyone through his unconditional loving kindness. And same goes when we talk about when we bow down to the images and when we take refuge in we are solemnizing to renewing to practice loving kindness. What does it mean when you take refuge in the Dharma? It means we're making commitment to practice loving kindness. We are renewing our vows to practice bodhicitta, and so that our meditation will give clarification, so that not to do ill will and resentment and guilt and anger. If these kind of thoughts registers into your mental horizon, you try to eliminate them with loving kindness. So that's why purpose of loving kindness meditation is to overcome ill will. You can tell how much you are succeeding into your practice of Dharma, that how little anger you have, how no anger you have. Even in dream, you don't get angry. And if somebody does terrible mistakes that affects you, you have this unconditional understanding. How can you rescue them from that feeling of shame or blunder they create? And they try to quickly go and help them to feel that you are there 100%, to make them feel that you will shoulder their responsibility, help them. That's a real loving kindness, because when they meet some kind person, it completely makes their day. If you show it through words or deeds or through thoughts, when you show loving kindness, then you do not have any animosity or any aversion to the person or what he does or what his problems are. You have complete understanding that is nature of deluded sentient beings. And they have been too deluded for far long, and they haven't met anyone who will be kind to them. Because they don't meet anyone who's kind to them, they are perpetuated. They are just completely habituated to be aggression with aggression, judgmental with judgmental, and angry with anger. So you see why sentient beings do not have any alternative to be kind, because they don't see many people showing kindness. They live in a zero tolerance society. Can you believe it? Zero tolerance. When you go to most places, they say they are zero tolerance place. Oh gosh, you shouldn't go there because they have zero tolerance. If you might be 5 minutes late, they wouldn't tolerate you. So of course, if you behave something disruptive to others, of course they can correct you. But we have to be tolerant because most people are very intolerant. So we have to break the cycle. We have to break the cycle to show tolerance where there is no tolerance, compassion where there is no compassion, forgiveness where there is no forgiveness. That is loving kindness. It's not question is who's right and who's wrong. The question is who can change these things, who can be kind enough to neutralize the division between right and wrong and good and bad. So it's not trying to be always right so much, but try to be kind, particularly those who are misunderstood by being wrong. And those who are wrong are treated with a lot of reaction and overreaction and so on. Then they become angry, and this breeds, this inherits the hatred for a long, long time. So loving kindness is such a precious Dharma. Dharma is precious. It's because it teaches us how to practice loving kindness. It teaches us how to heal the deep wounds caused by resentment and anger. That's why the Dharma is medicine. So Dharma is a reconstitution of your negative mind into positive mind, and loving kindness is the fruit from that big tree. That like a crop. So we should always not judge or assess our practice not because how many things you know or how many mantras you do, how many hours you sit, but see how much loving kindness you are increasing, so that you no longer are harboring any ill will or resentment, new ones, but those even past ill will and resentment and hurts and pain from past, you are really now looking at him or her with lots of understanding. That we need to look, because then you know how your practice is helping you, because you no longer have the sickness in your. Sickness means resentment, basically. Sickness means ill will. These sicknesses are not diagnosable medically. These are because people who have ill will really don't taste food. They don't sleep well at night, and so it's very important to understand what loving kindness is. Loving kindness remedies ill will. Loving kindness remedies harsh words. Loving kindness promotes kind speech. Loving kindness helps you to mediate between warring parties. Loving kindness does not cause you to slander or scorn or speak harsh words in front of people or behind their back. A person who is loving kindness don't do any of those things. Not because he doesn't see something wrong or bad that other people do, but he understands the suffering and problem of the other so much, which majority reject the person outright, because they are not armed with loving kindness. They're armed with judgment, intolerance, and punitive measures. Dharma, we take refuge from, we take refuge. One thing Buddhist practice is to abstain from violence, for instance. Whether it's physical violence, verbal violence, or emotional violence. Yeah, loving kindness is the key to stop all the physical, verbal, and emotional violence. One who has loving kindness would not open his mouth with the poisonous words to cause, schism, to poison people's mind, to speak harshly, criticize somebody, or to paint a negative picture of somebody. The person will totally abstain verbal negative karma because of his loving kindness. Outwardly, it may look like he's very disciplined, But his discipline is motivated by loving kindness, not so that he is better than other, that kind of pseudo self-discipline. There's a lot of artificial self-discipline only to seek the approval of other people as you are immaculate. That's not that kind of tainted self-discipline is worldly dharma. There's a lot of people who observe discipline so that they will be respected, so that they have this or that, but deep down, who knows what is there? The one who has no ill will, one who has harbored no ill will and brewed no anger, is the highest kind of disciplined person. So we should see the practice of loving kindness is the butter from the churning of the milk of Dharma. You know that you study, that you read, that you practice, but you need to see how much it is empowering you to develop a loving kindness. When you have loving kindness, there's incredible power to control your thoughts, bad thoughts, ill will, malice, resentment, covetousness, wrong view. All of these things will be naturally be culled by the power of loving kindness, because you know exactly how to keep your mind and heart free of all those obnoxious attitudes. So you can keep your mind completely free. You can see how much contented you are. You have so much gratitude. When you have loving kindness, there's incredible gratitude. When you have loving kindness, there's amazing sense of appreciation. Even smallest things that you have or you don't have, you are incredibly thankful to everything. Even you are not so well, you still have this incredible grace from your understanding, and therefore loving kindness increases your gentleness. Your thoughts are pure, of course, your words are very pure. You wouldn't say any words to harm, to confuse, to mislead, to criticize, to put down. You would not do any of that, because your loving kindness empowers you to observe and practice abstention from any bad mouthing. But if you do speak, it will be good mouthing. You will promote harmony. You will promote friendship. You will allay fears, because your loving kindness empowers you to speak kindly. Not because you don't see unruly people or who have unacceptable behavior. Because of that, you deliberately try to remedy them by your radiation of loving kindness. And loving kindness enables you to cull many of your negativities. Loving kindness is like it stops all the suffering from manifesting in you. Because when you have person who have loving kindness, he doesn't feel so sad or worried or anxious or upset. He's not vulnerable to suffer. He's able to create win-win practice of loving kindness. Because he's radiating loving kindness to others, he himself is completely contented and graceful. He doesn't have greed and covetousness. He is contented with the things that he is or whatever he's doing. He is not anxious. He doesn't get depressed. And loving kindness empowers you to radiate joy and gratitude and an incredible sense of appreciation. Appreciating everything. Even somebody harms you, you are appreciating their harm, because the harm they're doing is exhausting your negative karma of the past. If you can receive that way, it will exhaust definitely. But if you react to it poorly, hate for hate, aggression, of course negative karma doesn't decrease, it will escalate. So when you have loving kindness, you can practice patience. When you have loving kindness, you can see it's not what they say or do, It's what you think you can turn it into. It's good. So you say, hooray, there's another opportunity arises. So you have this amazing sense of excitement, how you can turn all the obstacles into attainment, all the difficulties into great accomplishments when you have loving kindness, So that's why we have to meditate. That's why we have to make prayer. That's why we need to chant. That's why we need to sadhana, so that all of this is pointing you to harvest this very cream of the Dharma. From the churning of the Dharma milk, you need to learn how to get the butter. So loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, of course they are defined slightly different, but without loving kindness, there is no bodhicitta. There is no compassion. So we have to start with loving kindness. And we need to practice loving kindness. Like I said, this morning I'm going to practice loving kindness. That's it. I'm not going to sort of go into judgment, retaliation, reaction. I won't just practice loving kindness. That's it. I'm going to practice loving kindness. Loving kindness doesn't mean you will play the weak role. Loving kindness means you will play the safest role, safest and sanest way to do. And when you have loving kindness, you are not so vulnerable. You're not so offendable because you can tolerate the hardships for what they are worth. And you have lived long enough to tolerate many hardships. Why not this? So you don't find anything too hard to consider. Practice loving kindness too. When you have loving kindness, then your food you digest. You sleep very well. Whatever you do has meaning, purpose. Because purpose is not to get that done. Purpose is to get loving kindness happen, no matter what else. Everything may or may not happen, but practice loving kindness for sure. When you have this kind of ability, when we say may all beings have happiness, may you be well and happy. But how can you, the second person, to be well and happy? Do you just say a prayer, or you do something to make them happy? If you can do something to make them happy, give something to make them happy, look at their eyes in a kind way, speak kind words, make them hopeful, make them feel that you are there for them. As soon as you do that, they become lit by your small acts of kindness. So we're talking about really how small but meaningful acts, thoughts, words that is totally geared to make someone happy and empower them to find the true cause of happiness. Of course, you can make them temporarily happy, You know that. So don't take on the job of trying to make everybody happy ultimately. That's totally beyond you. So don't try to, but try to make them temporarily happy. If he wants the half of the bread, give him the half of the bread. If he wants the better side of the table or the room, let him have it. And you couldn't believe how happy he is, and then you are also even more happy than you sitting there. It's incredible. You realize, oh, that's it. So it's small but meticulous, just right. You couldn't believe how small it is. So small things that makes people happy. Just have to have that kind of ability to see and sight what exactly you need to do, when, to whom, where. That kind of aptness is really mindfulness. And then, of course, ultimately, you can only make them happy if they know the Dharma. That the highest cause of happiness is them knowing the Dharma that we are relishing. And then when somebody is miserable, you can see, oh, he's miserable because he's got a lot of sickness in the head. That's the problem. He might have this materially, he might have that as a job, or he might have all of, but still he's got a lot of hurts and pain in the head and the heart because they don't have the wisdom of the Dharma. So you can see, you really pity on the helplessness of the sentient beings. And also, you, with loving kindness, you don't have to be the fixer of everybody's problem. Not that you don't want to, but it is not within your reach. We could not allay all people's sufferings. We cannot make everyone happy. But we try to make small things that make a small but useful difference to others there and then, in a really timely fashion, being able to do. So when you are able to understand loving kindness, your mind has a lot of deep understanding of what you need to say or do there and then, particularly when some people around you, what is it that you can do to make them happy, or make their difficulties a little bit shifted by your skillfulness, by your scrupulous way to help them. And then you can see the magic of how you can actually support them, make them be in a better space than they were able to do by themselves. And slowly, it is you who can empower them to meet the Dharma. If they have met you, one kind person today, if they have met you, one other kind person next day, you will change them, definitely. Our lives are changed because we have been kind, we have met kind people, you know. And if you haven't met kind people, and then that's the problem. So therefore, we should always try to work with people who are very, very grown up, very mature and kind people, kind and good people, mature people, really people who understand you, and who doesn't judge you, who doesn't intolerate you, who actually are very understanding. These kind of friends are true Dharma friends, And whether they are your blood relatives or not, if you have someone if you have a friend who really understands you, and then they will find hope in humanity because they met one or two people who have been kind to them. And they will find, oh, they are good people. Oh, I have such and such good. We don't need many good people, And nor are there that many people, because most are deluded many. Most are so deluded. They don't know how to be kind. They just want to be always right. So that's the problem. And they're so angry at you because you did the smallest this mistake, and they're still angry at you. So we have so many such people who are uptight and right, and therefore very, very sick. They don't know how to be kind and soft and gentle. So therefore, if we meet one or two kind people, which you will once they are in Dharma, and then you realize you find hope, Your life has been saved by having refuge in finding kind people in your life. And that will show the person, how did you become so kind? How did you become so thankful and generous and understanding or tolerant? Oh, because I know Dharma. Because I know Dharma. Because I read Dharma. I believe in the Dharma, and I know how true it is. And even my practice is very minimum, still I know that is so right that it makes me worthy of being alive. It may make me worthy of feeding 3 meals a day. Otherwise, what's this pig doing? Just always feeding him and doing nothing useful job. At least you realize you no longer are wasting another day in ill will, resentment, and guilt, and sadness, poor me. You don't do any of that. Ever since you met the Dharma and you got the Dharma, you really know Dharma is so true, but it's so hard to practice. Because there's not many who actually really get the Dharma and do the practice. Most are lost in the artificiality of it. So it's very important to see where our own energy and efforts are directed to, whether we're missing the point or not, whether loving kindness is increasing, compassion is increasing, you're not so uptight, you're not so intolerant of people, you're so kind. When sentient beings makes a mistake, you always feel sorry as your only child. you know. It's very important. Oh, you treat another child of mine. I have to be kind to him or her. I have been a child myself. And so instead of judging them, instead of throwing sticks at them, but you try to show understanding and make them feel that you mean well for their well-being and happiness. Now, that is really going to not only implant hope in mind of other person, but also it doesn't sow the seeds of anger, resentment in you because you have met somebody who's that bad, or who's not good, who's harsh, and who's really judgmental, who's violent. Even violent people are the most appropriate object of loving kindness. The violent person, you know, you wouldn't believe those people, like the guy who stabbed all those people in Sydney, you know, it just he is so deluded, and he has so many sufferings, and he didn't get what he wanted, and no, he never got to talk to anybody to understand him. So as a result of that, he became very, very wild up in his mind, and he didn't know what he was doing. For him, anybody is easy object to stab. So many sentient beings are like that, who didn't receive kind and caring people to understand, whose condition becomes so escalated by labeling him as someone who has a mental problem, and never actually look in his eyes and listen to him and be kind to him. Maybe even parents become a little bit, difficult, judgmental, saying he's a burden to him or them or something like that. So there is an incredible cause of these tragedies that we see every day. You can see the deficiency of love and understanding and compassion and forgiveness, and ability to listen and understand and talk to them as they are human, not someone that they are. We can't have people like this amidst us, that kind of. We have to be very inclusive and treat them with kindness, and maybe hope of winning them respect, and then have definitely will stop them from resorting to such act of violence and suffering to everyone, all concerned. So you can see how many sickness in the head are misunderstood, and so we have to really show complete loving kindness, and how to stop people turning small cravings and desires that they didn't get fulfilled become cause of anger, and then engage into such a violent act. So you can see the vicious cycle of where the people's problems are manifesting, because the society is so intolerant, so not understanding, not forgiving, and then individuals, persons, unruly thoughts, words, deeds have very terrible ramification to the society at large. So all this violence in society is a complete opposite of loving kindness. When we promote loving kindness, we are trying to stop the cause of violence, cause of aggression, cause of such kind of a hostility amongst the society. How do we change people? How do we make people to be tolerant and kind, forgiving and understanding? So promoting meditation, promoting self-discipline is good enough, but all of them should be aimed to teach how to practice loving kindness through one's words, deeds, and thoughts. So when one practices loving kindness, you can also meditate on loving kindness itself. You can just sit there in the Sunday morning meditation. You can do the loving kindness as a subject of your meditation, and then see the see whether you have any ill will towards somebody or not, or some people, or some groups, or some institute. If you have, you need to really get rid of this ill will and try to radiate loving kindness to them. So that you should visualize them in front of you, and then try to recognize them who they are. Right now in these lives we may have this very stigma in which our mind is attached and thinking who they are, but actually who knows who they are? Who they have been our past lives mothers, and they probably may have a good point to make if we just learn it carefully, instead of hating them, instead of angry at them. So one should try to make peace with them in the meditation, try to visualize them, try to see where they're coming from, where we are not understanding it from, why this has to be like this. What if I have huge loving kindness that can really remedy any of these problems, which we do not have? Often we don't have. Often we have more judgment, more anger and resentment, impatience, than any room for loving kindness. There's no room for loving kindness. We are completely occupied with hate, ill will, resentment, judgment, and how dare he do this too? How dare we? So you can see usually the loving kindness and hate don't coexist. So one has to make sure that the hate is never entertained. You never keep hate of anything, and your meditation is so that you try to clean up your mind of any such ill will and hate, and any misunderstanding you have, any judgment you have. Even your thought does not totally give up some of the views, opinion. You never voice them anymore. You never actualize physically anymore, but you are now starting to gain some momentum to control those thoughts being entertained. And then when you see the absence of or reduction of your ill will and hate towards some things or person, unlike before, then you can see this amazing hope that your meditation and your discipline, your study of Dharma is truly enabling you to show radiation of loving kindness to the person, no matter how different it was not so long ago. So when you no longer have ill will, you have good loving kindness. Then your discipline, your study has all come into fruition. So that's why loving kindness is very important Buddhist teachings. And when we say may all beings have happiness and cause of happiness, that's just we call as immeasurable loving kindness, because we say radiating or thinking of loving kindness for all beings. But sometimes we easily said than done, because we can say that may all beings have happiness, cause of happiness. When it comes to making someone happy, even with one person, we are not willing to do anything. Only a moment ago we said, may all beings have happiness, cause happiness, and we still look like we really mean it, but when it comes to doing, we even wouldn't do for one person, So that is a challenging thing, So that's a very challenging thing. You can see the person want that, just let him have it for the sake of happiness. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to make somebody happy. But at the same time, it's so hard for us to do. So hard for us to make someone happy, small cause of happiness, because we just think they don't deserve it. Why should I do the thing to make them happy? Well, no way, kind of thing. We sort of think, why should I do that for you? It's your messed up thing. So is it? So that may all beings have happiness, cause of happiness. You wonder whether you really mean it or not. If you think you mean it, just do it each time you are with somebody, and do that exactly in their terms. As long as they are relatively correct and they will help, just do them, and you wouldn't believe how gratifying it is to do something to make them for them completely according to their terms. and you did it simply to make them happy, and then see the magic of you being happier than that. You will be even more happier than the thing it cost you to make somebody happy. It was not an expense to you. It was a great gift of a gift. It's called win-win, they call it. Win-win. When you see that, then you will find, wow, this is the way to live. This is the way to do. And this kind of composition, incredible realization will come, how true the teaching is. And then you are going to tailor small loving acts of kindness through your words and deeds and thoughts. And even when you are somewhere on your own, you realize how much loving kindness thought you can cultivate meditatively. And then you have no time for worry, anxiety, fear, uncertainty. All of those is because of me. When you're thinking of loving kindness, it does not allow you to waste your time in any of those destructive, fruitless emotional instabilities. Loving kindness is most intelligent, most wise emotion that you can cultivate. So that's why we call it, please bless me, please bless me. Nobody blesses us if we don't change. If we change, we are blessed. We have, you have changed. Someone who's changed looks a little bit fresher and cleaner, don't they? Yeah, that's right. So people change. Cloth-wise, they change every day. Yeah, why they don't change the attitude just as much as they change the clothes? So more frequently, if one is wearing the clothes of poor me and worrying and sad, there's no loving kindness. But if you really are seeking happiness and cause of happiness, do something to yourself that is cause of happiness. And that usually is doing something to make other people happy. Give something that other people, and do something for other people. And then that makes you more happy than you waiting someone else to do this thing to you. It's somebody is generous to you always. It looks like you're spoiled more than a cause to be happy. If we are able to do the things that we seek other people to do, but we are able to do it more willingly than before, at no additional expense, but with the intelligence and smartness with which it empowers us. So loving kindness is a small act of kindness. Like some people are able to practice random kindness. The reason why random kindness is good is because so that we do not practice attachment kindness. A lot of time people practicing attachment kindness. They are kind to someone because they attach to him or her as your only son or your only daughter. Of course, we will always do that. We don't have to be discouraged by that. We always are so good at attachment kindness. But actual loving kindness is, you don't be so object specific, You have to be so subject specific, The subject of loving kindness is more important than the object you have to choose. Object comes randomly. But so long as you are gifted to have the ability and fitness to practice loving kindness through your words and deeds and acts, incredible. So with this, we should always reflect on the enormous merit of practicing Dharma, and especially if they have directed to us in the right place to reap the harvest of being kind as a result of your meditation, as a result of your sadhana, as a result of your knowledge and practice and years of understanding. Is it making you more kind? If so, then how much positive influence we can make others to be happy, to make them to grow and unfold their journey to life through Dharma or whatever otherwise kind of a act of how you cross your path with others. So when you even you don't have to tell people I'm practicing loving kindness to you. You just do it incredibly with elegance. It didn't come at a big expense. It didn't come needing to be complimented. It doesn't need to be acknowledged. It just needs to be done. And when you do that very regularly, you can see the magic that it adds to your worthiness of being alive. And the kind of thoughts that your mind is giving rise to very much is an indicator of loving kindness is in your solemn oath or the samaya or the precepts. All the vows and precepts completely is boosted when you have loving kindness. When you don't have loving kindness, all the vows, the precepts, just a list of things, Who want many more lists of things to do? You need just loving kindness, and that pretty much takes care of all the list that. So before we close off, hello everyone. If you want to share thoughts or comments or question, please feel free to do that. Thank you for joining me and everyone.
There's a question from Greg Pierce that you can't see. Can Rinpoche?
Mm-hmm.
Rinpoche, just if people could offer some prayers for a lady in Townsville, Glenys Hargrove. She's come to teachings before. She's being diagnosed with cancer and only given a couple of months to live and having severe treatment. If people could offer prayers and some loving kindness towards her situation. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, we will, for Glenys. Please, everyone, include Glenys in your prayer. Did you say there's a question?
Yeah. Can you comment on the realizing of being the wheel or the concept of turning the wheel?
Yeah. The turning the wheel is that we are not stagnant. That wheel means that we are becoming a vehicle. We are just like a means to help others to get out of their misery and their stranded situation. And then we are oiling the wheel so that it is turning and making person to transport from this state of thought to that state of thought. So this very act of having a Dharma discussion is the wheel. We say, please turn the wheel of Dharma, great or low vehicles. So means the Dharma wheel is always turning. When we're thinking very, very thoughtfully, very mindfully, the wheel of Dharma is always turning. And so that we do not get jammed wheel, Jammed wheel is not a wheel, is it? Is a wheel that turns is a wheel, So it's not those combis parked for 30 years and doing nothing in your backyard. That's not the wheel. We're talking of the wheel that are registered and that are helping oneself and others to transport from A to B is said. So turning the wheel of Dharma is not necessarily formally teaching the Dharma. So that's that. Did we see a question? Yeah.
Yeah, there is another one.
Why is it easier to become angry than react with kindness? Thanks, Jackie. Yes, the reason is because we are so habituated. We are habituated from many lifetimes to be angry and reactive when it takes a lot of time to mature and to realize how futile and counterproductive it will be. So when we can pause for a cause before becoming angry, then we are trying to slow the easiness to react and the slowness to be kind. So we have to be patient. Is it really good for me to react this way? What am I going to get? What would this turn the situation if I react this way? Only if we can ask small, simple question like that, it can pause us and slow and therefore control, and then stop us from being so angry. And with kindness, you have to see that whatever they are saying or doing, that you should see that as already a suffering in their mind, and so you should see how you can allay their sufferings. It's not so much what they did to us, but what they are doing to themselves is concerning you. Kindness is empathy of suffering of others, whereas anger comes thinking they are harming us. So subject is different. Anger is what he's doing to me. The kindness is saying what he's doing to himself, that I should be able to help. So when our priority is the well-being of the other, which often is not the case, because we are so used to thinking, why he's saying this to me, instead of thinking, oh, why is he saying that to at all, poor man? If you think like that, then you will not become so easy to be angry, because it's not about what he said to whom, but why he's saying that in the first place. So it must be a kind of problem and suffering and the cause of suffering to him. So when you do that, then it stops you thinking he's harming you or hurting you. You see, he's already hurt by his anguish. So that's why it's harder to react with kindness, because we don't have the habit, we don't have the merit, nor have the wisdom, and nor have the discipline, and we have zero tolerance. That's the problem. If we have if we have single-digit tolerance, at least it will slow to become angry. Slow is safe. Speed kills, they call it. Speed kills. Slowly, you would not react to so quickly.
There's another question that you can't see.
Rinpoche, I have a question. Hello. Hi, everybody. With the intention or the ill will per se, rather than having ill will, is loving kindness. I'm on the camera. And having loving kindness in just maybe to have a little chat about on how to cultivate that through mindfulness and attention, but how to tap into, rather than the speed kills and the ill will, stepping in with the anger, which is a reaction and everything, but maybe a little chat about what it means to cultivate loving kindness and how that is represented within Dharma teachings, and how some ways we can associate our mind and cultivate our mind to become more familiar with notions of loving kindness. I'm thinking art, creativity, but not so much if it's related to stress. It often attaches back to that anger engine. But just a question through the teachings of the Dharma on cultivating loving kindness rather than anger or ill will having the power to drive the vehicle, where loving kindness kind of really is harbored and safe and able to move and shift within the manifestation of circumstance. So it's just a little question.
Yes. The tendency to resort to anger and reaction is deluded a negative habit, and to be able to not react that way, but understand with loving kindness, and then becoming calm and tolerant and peaceful, and control your thoughts before they become cause of reaction. Being able to have one's own inner warning system not to overreact. That there is a why, because we have all very easy to overreact and then blow it all out of proportion. So if we have this cautiousness and skillfulness to pause, and how to not so much what the person said or did, but how can I understand it? We often misunderstand it, and so we react with that misunderstanding. Kindness is understanding. If you understand them very well, you can see for what's a grain of truth there is, but you don't have to put a lot of your salt in their soup. And so you don't have to correct it. You don't have to prove it's wrong or right. It just have to see whether you have this goodness to understand that whether it's what they said or how you interpret it. And what kind of mindset are you in that's likely to interpret adversely, or that has a mind that will interpret kindly, or that is a mind that will interpret or more indifferently. So there's always three alternative choices, and the chances of us reacting adversely is usually habitual pattern. So you have to be warned that might be so, and so you have to have the understanding of the danger of how it can escalate and could prove to be mutually destructive and very destructive in the future. So you have to have this far-sighted vision of the consequences of your reaction rather than consequences of what they did. If you are kind to your well-being and his or her well-being, then you will choose your reaction, if at all, more carefully than what they did. So when you can control the result, future result, by present choice of your responses, then you are foreseeing the result of what you're going to say or what you're going to do. And when you see the very cause very clearly, your result will be, you can foresee the result. So you can see the sign of danger if you're going to say it this way, because although you may feel right and feel good being able to say what you feel later, but you don't realize what a catastrophic consequences it will make in later. So when you have that kind of vision, then this can empower you to practice loving kindness, because for your own happiness and cause of happiness, you will not say this. Instead, you will tolerate it now. So then you have more vision to bear the hardships now, but not suffer in the future. The present tolerance is a worthy suffering. It is a remedy for your pride and arrogance, and it is that's what Shantideva says. The suffering that people are instigating in me is a remedy for my pride. So it's a great blessings. And instead of reacting to it, because it can then cause future suffering to you, so it's not, you're not going to be kind to you, let alone kind to the other. So you're going to be destructive behavior of now will bring unfavorable future between you and the other. So fearing this benefit of fear of negative consequences and counterproductive nature of it, therefore you have the vision of not reacting in a particular way. Why? What they said and did is all finished, and they don't exist at all from their own side, and they probably don't even know what they said, let alone knowing intently that. And so what does it mean? That the ball is in your court. So are you going to take it this way or that way? It's entirely up to me. So there is incredible self kind of analysis going on, whether you wanted to choose the reaction carefully so that the consequences are in your choice rather than dictated by their instigation. That is kindness. That is loving kindness to your well-being as well as well-being to the other. The question isn't who's right or who's wrong, but who can be kind enough to tolerate this now, and so that your overreaction is prevented by this tolerance now. And out of kindness to you and them and the relationship and the future, that may help to negotiate with that. So when a person is tolerant, he's not saying what a person did is entirely right by you. They may be entirely wrong. But how can you now bend the spoon? It's you who can correct it from getting bad to worse. This is the kind of power you have. It's not question is whether they did wrong or right. This is not the question. You might still think they're wrong, but so what? But I wanted to stop it from getting worse. So the solution is not, the solution is an understanding of what it is rather than who's right and who's wrong. If you understand it, you can diffuse it. Problem. You can diffuse it from escalating. Why? Because you have the vision of practicing kindness now to yourself, for them, and the future. This is all-rounded kindness. Kindness to you or kindness to the other person is kindness to yourself and your future. Reaction and intolerance now is in reaction and intolerance to you and your future with the person. So which of these you wish to choose? So in this is exactly what we are talking about.
Question from Greg: is being the perfect teacher-student a true test of understanding the Dharma?
Did people hear that question? No. Being the what?
Is being the perfect teacher-student a true test of understanding the Dharma?
Being a perfect student and teacher, understand the Dharma. I don't think there's any perfect teacher-student relationship as such, because it's the relationship between teacher and student is always on the kind of a road of practice rather than a perfect. I mean, if you can have your relationship with the refuge is more important. How much you are able to relate to teacher is because you can have many teachers. You can have a teacher who teaches you. Then you have teachers who don't teach you but who make you to do what the teacher taught you in your real life. So the people in your real life are the real teacher, But the teacher, the Buddha, and the teacher who teach you the actual words and philosophy, the concept, they can only teach you that technically. But the chef who did the training in the technical college, he may have a piece of paper to tell he's a good chef, but he's really get taught more in the restaurant he works. So ideal relationship is how you use the teaching that teaches you how to read, how to live your life. Wherever you go and do things with people, these are the people who are really teaching us, who are really making us to perform our duties of a student or a teacher or a kindness in the most productive way. Okay, thank you everybody for your questions and your participation and meditation here. this morning. Thank you very much. So we will dedicate the merits for the quick recovery of Glennis, as Phil mentioned, as well as many others who are not so good in some situations, because samsara is like that, isn't it? Samsara is full of difficulties, and it is in that difficulties we have to be thoughtful and mindful how precarious our own life is, and therefore try to live as fully as possible. Om Buddhas Mere Mere Oga Da Deva Menzage Hom Neja Me Haile Bere Rabe from the ocean of Buddha Desine Herenda Mayana Dije whatever merit I have, may hope because the last to the Mayana Dije courage manjuju no as a man de life following oh the zamba I should go the mere excellent body cheda teba where I dance where has been born really without generation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Welcome.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you.
Thank you.